Please like, subscribe, and be sure to click that bell button for regular and exciting indie film content and your chance to be the first to engage with the Liftoff Global Network of Film Festivals as we embark on launching the careers of the filmmakers of tomorrow.
780 or whatever. That's better with the sunlight.
All right, hello everyone and welcome to today's stream. Today we're joined by four amazing filmmakers who screened with us at the Manchester Liftoff Film Festival and won the Audience Choice Award. We are joined by Michael, Claudia, Paul and Thomas. I think it's best if you guys introduce yourselves, your roles and the films that you're representing here today before we delve straight into the first film. Let's start with you, Michael.
Hello everyone, my name is Michael Wolf and I am the director and one of the actors in the short film called Retake.
Amazing. This film did incredibly well during the whole festival month, so I really look forward to delving in and finding out more.
Thank you.
Claudia.
Hello there, all our fellow filmmakers. My name is Claudia Noble and I am the producer of The Snake Tooth.
Fantastic. Thank you. Paul.
Paul Summerlin from America, co-director, co-producer, composer, editor, and subject, on-camera clown of It's No Secret Part 1, co-produced by Diana Michelle. Good to be here.
Perfect. So you are a true independent filmmaker wearing all of those hats.
Indeed.
I can't wait to find out how on earth you got this project off the ground and how you managed to juggle all of those roles. We are starting with your film, so let's find out from Thomas before we start playing yours. Thomas.
Hello everybody, I'm Thomas Clavreul. I represent the short film and student film Ruby. I'm a distributor and the color corrector in this film.
Fantastic. Thank you. And for anyone who has been following the Liftoff festivals, Ruby has been doing extremely well across multiple of our festivals. So I'm really excited to finally be able to talk to Thomas about the project. But let's get started. So if you are watching the stream and you have a few questions for our filmmakers, please let us know. And during the stream, we'll do our best to get those answered for you. But we're going to start first of all with Paul's film. So as I get that loaded up this side, here we go. There we are. Perfect. So that is starting, it should be starting. Yes, it has just started. So Paul, tell us a little bit more about why you wanted to make this documentary and how you got involved with playing all of those roles and wearing all of those different hats to get this production off the ground. Take us straight back to the beginning.
About 6 years ago, maybe 5, Diana Michelle became a yoga student of mine. And our relationship remained just that for several years. Right around the time that, I would say a year into the COVID crisis, the business I was working for lost its building because their business had just gone under because of the lockdowns and such. And we sort of moved our operations sort of temporary into a new place. And I started teaching yoga in sort of a piecemeal way in this old chapel that someone had let us use for a while. It was at this old school building. And I was teaching yoga for small groups of people in the early mornings during this really hard period when the business has gone under. And during that time, Diana was still coming to my classes. And she also noticed that in the mid-morning, the light was really amazing in that chapel. And she asked me if she could take some pictures. I was like, this would be a really cool place to take some pictures. And so we set up a session to do this. So we're talking still photos at this point. And that's literally how it started. We did that session. We did another session just like it because we liked the result. And then we started doing some things outdoors. And through those conversations, literally within weeks, I mean, it was that fast. Within weeks, we were talking about other things. And I told her about my condition, which kind of surprised her at first. And it just happened to coincide with her her growing interest and experience with motion picture and documentary, particularly those of a mysterious and dramatic nature, if you will. So moving forward just a little bit, to thinking about your question, it was a loaded question, which is fine, but I'm trying to get to the answer. What happened and how, and that's the hard part to answer. The easiest way to answer, I think, would be that I didn't know. I didn't know that I was going to decide to do this. I didn't know it was going to be a decision in my life. I didn't know it was going to be on my calendar. It just appeared on my calendar and sort of swept me off my feet, both of us. And once we started talking about it, we realized we needed to start hitting the red button pretty quick. And we started doing that with audio and with video. And it kind of grew from there. And about a month into that, maybe less, I told Diana that I wanted to direct with her. I wanted to take an integral direct role in whatever this was going to be. And she totally agreed. And we went about it like that, moving forward from there. And I would say that was about a year ago. And you mentioned all the different roles I play, and it does look strange on paper. It doesn't feel strange to me from the inside of it with this project. And when I think about the music particularly, because that's something I've done my whole life. I haven't been a filmmaker my entire life, but I've definitely been a musician my entire life. And I've been a composer since I was about 8. And that's sort of part of my creative process that I take for granted in a way. But part of our conversation started early on when she told me she was working on some old documentary projects and some things that she had been fiddling with for many years. I said, I basically just handed her a big collection of my music that had never seen the light of day, that literally gigabytes worth of compositions of
Amazing.
mine. And I said, here, use this in your work. It's fine. You know, if somebody else can pay me later, take some music that you want to do. And that's kind of how that started. And then about a week later or 2 weeks, I just said, you know what, the movie's right here. Let's do this together. She goes, yeah, I agree. And that's where it went. Let's move to the next question. Maybe you can steer me where you want to go.
No, absolutely. You mentioned about your diagnosis, and as I'm watching the screen, the text where you explain that has just appeared. But for those that may have missed that, or for the others on the call here today, do you want to fill us in a little bit more about that?
Right. By the time I was 13 years old, the doctor started diagnosing me various things. And for most of the time back in the day, and we're talking the late 70s, early 80s, and I was labeled back then as depressive or dysthymic or whatever the terms were at the time. And for the most part during my childhood and adulthood, that was the overarching label. There were some offshoots to that, and different opinions: bipolar, manic depressive, avoidant. There were different doctors had different ways of looking at it, I guess. And I had already sort of outgrown this whole game, as I talk about in the film, right around the year 2000. And I'll jump around a little bit just to kind of get it all in. But I was heavily medicated between the years of about 1989 to about 1999 or something around that area, a good solid 10 years. And then there was one other brief period in 2009 where I had a really bad suicidal episode where I agreed to go on a small dose of Celexa or something, I don't remember. But I was pretty much done with the conventional things since the year 2000. And I was getting into meditation and yoga at that time. And fast forward to 2015, I was going through a particularly traumatic period of my life. And for whatever reason, so I was 47 at this point, okay, like it says in the graphic in the movie.
Yeah.
I was 47, and for whatever reason, I went to the family, and I said to them, I believe that I've been misdiagnosed all of these years. I just have a feeling that I was, and I have a feeling that if we knew something more about it, it might make my life a little better. And so we agreed to take another look. And one of the things I half jokingly say to Diana over and over again is, during that terrible traumatic time when that diagnosis came up again, for the first time rather, I remember feeling like I was so right. I was so right that the doctors had got it wrong, but I was so wrong about how. The big S word was the last thing on my mind. It was like every other thing on my mind was there but that. And so when that happened, it sort of rewrote the book of my life, and it created that learning curve that I talk about in the film, which is too much to go into now. But that's a little bit of a backdrop about it. So I'll throw it back to you if you want to steer me.
Yeah, no, I think it's super important for us as an audience to understand that, and that's the reason behind getting this documentary made and shared with the world. With that in mind, what is the path for this documentary once it's finished at the film festival circuit? Are you looking for distribution? Are you trying to get it into charities? What is the plan with the project?
Any or all of the above is a beautiful idea. There is some paperwork on the table.
Oh, good.
But it's moving very slowly, and we're being very patient because one, we do want to run this festival circuit, and it is going well, and we're learning a lot from this experience.
Yeah.
as I know all filmmakers do, because it's grueling. It's very difficult to explain for people who've never done it. And we're also taking our time to continue to raise funds so we can continue, because we've already started production on part 2. And we're trying to figure out the best ways to keep that going and stay behind this one and see where it goes. So the easiest answer is all of the above. Yes, that is the goal. We when I sat down and if I were to have sat down 2 years ago and thought about this, I might have told myself, okay, maybe you should write a book. And that might be an easier way to do this, but I think God just had different plans for me, and it was like the message in my mind was, there are a few people that still read books, but everybody has one of these. Yeah. And if you want to reach people, you got to get them there. And you can just pick whatever size screen you want, but I think everybody knows what I'm talking about here.
Absolutely.
And so that was the message, and that was the mandate, and I had to go way out of my comfort zone to do it, and that was part of the growing experience of the whole thing.
And to have an offer on the table is a huge achievement. There are so many films that get made and never really see the light of day. So congratulations on 1, getting into festivals, and 2, having an offer. Just be careful and have a lawyer read over the contract before you sign anything.
That's why we're taking our time.
Yeah, good. It's a mistake people often make who get an offer because it's so exciting. They've done it. They've got a distribution offer, but they don't read the small print, and then it kind of backfires. So yeah, take your time and digest everything before you say yes. I guess my kind of final questions are, before I kind of open it up to everyone else who's on the call, if they may have any questions, is, you did say that maybe this wasn't the route that you were going to take, and you didn't necessarily know that you'd end up making a film, but maybe there's a film that inspired you to say yes to going on this journey, or a moment that you were like, no, maybe the film industry is for me. Is there any films or any moments in your life where you were just like, I want to pursue this?
I know you set this question up for us, but it's still a difficult one.
It still stuns everyone, I know.
I'm gonna go with a film that was more later in life, because I stopped watching mainstream movies a long time ago, to be quite frank. But I did grow up watching films like everybody in my generation did, and I loved them, and I loved getting my head around them and working through the writing, and how when a movie was good and when it was bad, and how that made me feel, and those things were always obvious. But I'm going to go with Inland Empire by David Lynch.
Ooh, good choice. David Lynch.
It's not a movie for everybody, but it's a movie that's it's using all the different mediums of film and that come together in film It's like the opera of the modern world. And Lynch uses them in a way that takes you to so many layers of consciousness in ways that other filmmakers don't. I'm going to go with that one for now.
Great answer. Really great answer. Thank you. Thank you. Amazing. So I just want to throw it open to everyone else who is on the call here. Do you have any questions for Paul, or any thoughts or comments that you would like to share whilst we're all on this together?
I suppose just one question, because I've had people from back home, I'm originally from Bulgaria, that had said that using film as a medium for such not necessarily issues but conditions, did you find it therapeutic having completed this kind of a journey in part one?
Yeah, a resounding yes. And the therapeutic, cathartic, and on top of that, challenging in ways that I could have never dreamed. And when you were asking the question, I immediately started thinking of some of the beautiful, very, very close-up images of nature that we have in our film that Diana is so good at doing. And this idea of the camera lens being another iris into reality. It's another eyeball, another to extend the eyes that we already have. We have these eyes, and then we have the lens. It's like the mirror on the wall concept, the magic of film. It's so magic. It's so potentially magic that it can be dangerous if used improperly. and being on the inside of making this movie, there's no doubt in my mind that part of that cathartic process is feeling into the inside of that iris, and then being on camera and seeing myself and being in that feedback loop of that inner outer iris. I don't know if I'm making sense right now.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It is. And not to sound cliche, but there is something magic going on when you properly take all those parts together and to affect people subconsciously. And it needs to be dealt with very carefully, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Thanks for that question.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to Claudia's film now, which is a completely different medium and a completely different film in total. So we're going to switch over this side, and you're about to watch an amazing animation. So Claudia, take it away. Tell us how this project came to life.
Hi, Natalie. Well, the project really was 7 years in the making.
Oh, wow.
Yes, the biggest problem that we had was to get funding, but it all started off while I was surfing the internet looking for material for children's stories, because I had done a short film which I did so well, and it was for children. I thought, oh, maybe I should be making stories for children. But just a little bit of background, though. I am an attorney by profession, and my father wouldn't let me go into the film industry because he thought that definitely not financially secure to be in that industry. So
not a stable job. Yeah.
Yes, for years I sat behind my desk, and then I turned 40 and thought, oh my goodness, no, I've got to do what I'm passionate about. And I started my own production company, but then I had to look for material, and I found a film I wanted to work on, which was a big feature film. But in order to get funding for it, I needed to have a short film made. So I thought, oh, okay, let me make a short film. And then I was looking for material for that, and that's how the Pindele's Heart short film got made, which was my very first short film. So not having gone to film school or anything, I had no background and no formal training. So it all just, from a passion perspective and learning on the job. And the whole idea of it in the beginning, of course, was I wanted to be an actress. So, let's create a platform for your own acting in your own movies. And so we had little parts that we, could play in those particular films. And then stumbling over this book called Nelson Mandela's Favorite African Folktales. And at the time, 7 years ago, of course, also Nelson was very prominent within, and still is, of course, one of our national heroes. But there was a lot going on around that time. So everyone was grabbing onto things with Nelson Mandela. There was Nelson Mandela cookbooks, and there were feature films and everything going on. I said, oh, here's something for children linked to Nelson Mandela, because he had done a selection of folk tales that he wanted all children to know about. And so we decided, okay, we spoke to the publicist, and they gave us the rights to actually animate all of the stories in the book. There were 30 of them in total. But trying to get the funding to animate 30 stories was like an absolute impossibility. Number one, the challenge, because when you're doing animation, normally you'd have like 5 characters, and those would be the same 5 characters in all 20 episodes. But here we were sitting with 30 stories. Each story had a different background because they were set in a different place in Africa. Each one had different characters. So the budget was astronomical. But at the end of the day, 7 years later, we managed to get the funding, but we could only do 5 of the stories. And then my most favorite of the 5 we managed to do was The Snake Chief.
Wow, what an introduction. And you covered so many different points there that I kind of want to backtrack on a little bit, because I feel like your perspective and take on the film industry is super important for others that are in similar situations. We get a lot of actors come through the platform as well, and they're constantly asking us how to create work or how to find work. And I feel like you've just hit the nail on the head, but you've got to create it yourself. You've got to connect with filmmakers that you resonate with. And the best way to do that is to either sit down, write your own content, get it made, get it produced, or attend film festivals where you get to meet the creatives behind the projects and actually network instead of just going to auditions and waiting for the phone to call. So I think it's super, super amazing that you're a living example of what can be done once you sit down and do it yourself. So that's great. And getting the rights to all of those animations is incredible as well. So really well done for nailing that. So you've done 5 projects so far, and this is obviously the favorite one. It's fantastic. How did you come up with the animation style?
So the 5 are all different, actually. They don't have the same animation style at all, because when we started off, because our budget was so low, we ended up going with a Center of Fine Arts Animation and Design, which is a school, and we were going to use young students and new graduates to actually animate. But we battled along the way. So as you can imagine, every kid that was submitting their ideas for the different characters, which is completely different. If you look at the very first design we had, for example, for Snake Chief, it was very different to what we ended up with at the end of the day. But just for this particular one with Snake Chief, and that probably would go on the initial question we were asking about my favorite movie, would have been Shaka Zulu, because when we were looking at how would we design the characters, we actually used this film to give us the direction, to find the environments, to see what the cultural look, because there was a lot of research done in that film with regard to the Zulu nation. And so it was easy for us by drawing our strength and motivation from that particular film to know what our characters would look like. But then again, it is also difficult in animation to have all the rigmarole, because if you think of your Zulu king, Shaka Zulu, his entire body was covered with all the different beadwork and everything. And then for the character to move, and then the design must come with him, and then the little bead must come with. So eventually, like we had our characters so beautifully designed, and then we had to make them a little simpler so that it could work for animation. But if you ask that quick, just to answer the actual question, I would say that we took our inspiration from that film with regard to the and also all our traditional Zulu wear that we have in South Africa.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think it looks great, and I'm sold. I'm sold on every aspect of the story. So well done. You mentioned that you managed to get funding. Could you tell us a little bit more about your process to getting funding? It's something that our filmmakers struggle a lot with. So I just love hearing stories of how people manage to secure their funding.
So we have an organization, a government organization in our country called the National Film and Video Foundation. So they would send us to film festivals and markets, and we'd go and visit them and try, obviously, like everyone else at a film festival, trying to look for funding, speaking to different people and so forth. So the very first time I actually went with them, they sponsored us to go to a film festival. And that's when I met other, we have an organization called Animation SA, and I met up with other animators at the film festival, and we just got talking. And that's when I met Nanda Subin, who was the gentleman that then helped us with the animation, because he was running the animation school. But his animation school was in KZN, KZN, which is KwaZulu Natal, and they have a funding organization called the KwaZulu Natal Film Commission. So if you were doing any work within the KZN region, they would then give you funding. So it actually just worked that I went to a film festival, met up with a director of animation school. He said, "Oh, we can tap into the funding that would be given by our area." But the amount that we got, obviously, I mean, when I first started with this project, I was looking for 60 million, 30 stories, 2 million each, and that's rands. So that would be about maybe $200,000. And then in the end, we only got 1.5 million. I think divide by 16. Any one of you guys that can do that? So that we literally did the budget with so little money because that's what we got, and we just had to get through it. But it was so difficult that we actually ran out of funds, and COVID hit, and things. The college was closing, and it was going to be like this was not going to happen anymore. And then our government gave funding again to filmmakers as well. It was called the Presidential Employment Stimulus Fund that came in the midst of COVID. And it just saved us with the money that we received, which was basically doubled the amount we had in the beginning. We were able to finish off the films. I honestly feel, had it not been for the Presidential Employment Stimulus Fund from our government, we would never have gotten the film done. So you could definitely then say it was all government funded at the end of the day.
Which is incredible because government funds, especially in the UK, are very, very small. So it's amazing to hear that you were able to complete your project with the government funding. And it was really nice to hear the story of, like we just spoke about, attend film festivals, you never know who you're going to meet. So I'm glad again to have another real life example on this call. So apart from the funding challenges that you had, what would you say was the biggest hurdle that you had to overcome in order to get this project made?
I think it was the learning curve of my animators. If you look at my very first story and when we started off, and you look at the way the characters moved, even how they were designed, even what our backgrounds looked like, and then you look at number 5, and see where we got to. It was we were supposed to finish it in 2 years. It ended up taking us double the time, 4 years to actually animate it. So that was the challenge, was working with the students. Also, I'm in Johannesburg, they were in KZN, and to manage them from the distance, it was really hard. I think that was my biggest challenge, with the student animators being young and being inexperienced, but at the same time, as we went through the years, they improved, they developed, and the skills development was there, because at the end of the day, we then brought in a very experienced director, a very experienced animation company called Mind's Eye Creation, and they kind of took the work that the students had done, started working with the students and giving them the skills that they needed in the industry itself in order to make the entire project work. And again, had it not been for that money that we got right at the end, I wouldn't have been able to pull them in. So that was actually what just helped us right at the end. But it was a learning curve. But what's good about that is because what the government wants is the fact that your corporate companies can then transfer skills to those up and coming graduate animators. But that was my hardest challenge, working with everyone, trying to pull it all together.
Yeah, but it sounds like everyone had an amazing experience working on the project, and to be able to leave them with a handful of new skills that they can walk into another job with. What an amazing project to be a part of. I guess then my final question is the same that I asked Paul. You mentioned another film that gave you inspiration for the current film that we're watching, The Sneak Thief, but you also mentioned that you knew that you wanted to be in the creative industry from such a young age. What made you realize that was what you wanted to move into?
I don't think it was film, because I'm much older than everyone else here. We didn't have television until I was like 10, and I remember as a young girl having my friends coming to visit and performing for them. I think it's just something that one gets born with, I think. But if I could say that, perhaps not because we got television when I was younger, and that would have been impressed me. It was a series that really gripped me. It was called The New Avengers. And it was with Purdy and Gambit and Steed. It's actually a British production. I just loved it. It was just like just that world that they were in, and this and Purdy, this lady that was so powerful and so strong and could beat up guys. I would say that that was the film that made me want to be an actress, made me want to be in the film industry, and to do whatever I could to get there.
Yeah, it's I feel like a lot of people start out wanting to be in front of the camera, wanting to be actors and actresses, because that's what we see growing up. We only see the front end. We don't see what goes on behind until that world is exposed to us. So yeah, thank you. Before we move on then to Thomas's film, does anyone have any questions for Claudia before we do move on? No? In that case, thank you for sharing your story, and I've taken away so much from what you've mentioned during this call, so thank you. So,
Thank you, Ashley.
Okay, so I'm just going to set up Ruby. Here we go. So now that is starting this side, and as we can see, well, you'll be able to see in a moment that you have the film school credits opening up this film. So Thomas, take it away. Tell us a little bit more about how this project was made, how I'm taking it was part of an assessment that you had to do for your university. But yeah, tell us how this project came to life.
Okay, so Ruby is a short film and student film. It's created during the second year in the Esra Bretagne. We can see the logo of the school. And this film, the crazy one film is submitted during the year of study. So with the team, we have a different idea to create a film. We have Ruby, we have a film about a family, and all the team shows one film for shooting. So it's Ruby was shot, and they go to shoot this film. So we have a reunion of production for prepare the shooting and finish the scenario. And we have 5 days for shooting this film. 5 days.
Just 5 days. Wow.
Yes, only 5 days.
That was actually one of my questions, because I feel like you managed to get a lot into this short film, and yeah, one of my questions is how many shoot days, and 5 days. How did you manage to schedule everything that you needed to do within those 5 days?
Yes, we shoot all the day, but the problem is the story is in a psychiatric hospital, but the shoot is May 2021, and during this period we have COVID in France.
Yeah.
And the hospital, the psychiatric hospital, refused to shoot in this place.
Wow.
So for shooting this film, we have an old college. We have abandoned in 5 years and shoot in this old college, but it's not really a psychiatric hospital, but with decoration, with element, we transform this place in a psychiatric hospital.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks great. I wouldn't have known any difference that it wasn't a hospital. So well done on getting the art direction down. My other question was, how did you find your lead actress? Because she is great. Her performance is very believable. What was your casting process?
It's announced in social media, particularly in Facebook, and the actress. The film was shot in Rennes, in the west of France, in a region named Britain. And we have 40 kilometers. We have the city Fougères, when we have a lot of YouTubers, and we have a lot of actresses to live in Fougères for the shoot with her YouTuber. And this actress, Alice Nicoli, she worked in YouTuber, and we have we have to participate in a different film and project for students, and we can see the project and the scenario, the ambition of the director, and the ambition to go in a festival. she accepted to participate in this film.
Amazing. I know of so many short films that put their casting calls out on social media and just get so many applicants, so many actresses and actors wanting to be involved in the project. How did you, I mean, you found the one that you wanted to use, but were you bombarded with applicants as well?
Yes, we have with the social media, we have a lot of proposition. We have a lot of people would like to participate in the film, but we have casting. We have first choice,
Yeah.
and casting. We show if at the end of this casting, we show the actress of this film.
Amazing.
And we have 2%. We have Alice Nicoli for Ruby, and we have Nina Fabiani when participate to the casting for Ruby, and we showed for play the mother.
Great. That's fantastic. I'm also looking at the cinematography, and it visually looks amazing as well. So you've like ticked all of the boxes of storytelling, casting, and also visually it's very pleasing. What did you shoot on?
For cinematography, we have one problem because the story is a psychiatric hospital. And in this film, I'm a gaffer, and I work with the DOP for preparing the light and prepare the film if we have a dark corridor, dark room, only dark, and recreate the light. But because we shoot in a college, we have one problem. In the corridor, we have a classroom and a window. And the shoot is not possible to shoot during the night. It's obligate on the night. So we recreate all the light ambience in this space because we have the material, we have the light, but we have not all the material for recreate a dark corridor and recreate the light when the DOP prepare. And we test with the color corrector in this place. We test the different possibility for recreate the light. And it's improvisation.
Nice.
We have the light, so we test, and if it's okay, so we shot, and if no, modify this because the shooting during 5 days, because we have a lot of tests in this place for choose the better light.
Yeah.
As we see.
And I mean, shooting in the pandemic, shooting whilst COVID is happening, must have been so stressful because rules and regulations were changing all of the time. So you would have had so many hurdles to jump over there. But alongside that, I'm wondering what else did you have to overcome in order to get this project finished? What were the main things that you had to overcome?
So for this project, we have two versions of the film.
Yep.
Because we have a jury of the film at the end of the year, and during this jury, we present the first version of the film. During 10 minutes, we have a test of the light, test of the color correction, and we have one problem: the jury dislike this film. We have a lot of problems for the jury. We have problem with the story. We have the problem of the light. We have the problem with the decoration. We have all of the problems. So with Gwendoline, the director, and Claudia Noble, the editor of this film, we will create a second version of this film during these holidays. And the objective is to recreate a second version for the festival.
Yeah.
And the objective is okay. And because it's a holiday, it's me, I work in a museum, Gwendoline work in a restaurant, or Ian work in another place.
Yeah.
It's very complicated for create the second version. And in September, we work the three people in the place because the director would like to send the film in Sundance, and we have 1 day for sending the film.
Yeah.
So I worked, yes, I worked during the night for finish the second version for the festival.
And how did it did you hear back from Sundance?
The film was sent, but it was selected for the section.
But that
We worked for this objective. It's a creator version for sending the film in Sundance.
But that being said, like your film has done really well on the festival circuit. I was having a look at your awards earlier today, and this film has been picked up quite a bit. So that's incredible. Really well done.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I just realised that the credits had rolled past and we were still chatting, so I've just switched the screens over as well. But what's next? What are you working on next?
Next, Gwendoline have another film. The film was writing and search a producer and different announcement for the film because the film during 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of place because we have different apartments, we have restaurants, we have Ruby is more simple because we have one place, only the psychiatric hospital. But in this film we have a lot of place in the same city, but very different. So it's yes, the production was sent in different festivals for have money for finance this film, and because we are students, we work for the study, and after because we finish the study in June, we work in this film after the school.
Fantastic, that's great. And will you be attending the Cannes Film Festival next week?
Yes, if it's possible, we continue on this work was sent in different festivals.
But will you be in Cannes next week?
Sorry, can you repeat? We have problems with internet.
Okay, I was going to say because Liftoff are heading to the Marché du Film next week, so we could have had a drink on the Riviera if you were there, but maybe another time.
If it's possible, we go in this place, but we have friends, and it's obligate to have a passport or go to England. And for me, it's a problem. Actually, I do the paper for have this passport, but it's all the time with after the COVID. We have a French. It's 6 months for have this passport.
I see.
I exchanged with Gwendoline if okay, but she works a lot of and it's complicated for her to go in this place.
Well, maybe next time, but definitely,
Yes.
definitely send our thank you to both Gwendoline and yourself for joining us on today's stream. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And then our final film is Michael's with Retake. So I'm just going to load that up this side. But as I do so, Michael, why don't you tell how this project came around? Because we're about to see your face and you're acting in this film as well. So tell us about it.
Well, it's similar to many other, I suppose, new filmmakers. It was during the pandemic. I wanted to be more of a theatre actor up until a certain point. I had a small theatre company in Liverpool, but then the pandemic hit and live performances were kind of eradicated. So my partner at the time, well, she's still my partner, not at the time. My partner
Good.
She's a camera operator and a film editor. So whilst I was at university, we shot a few extra showreel scenes together, and we kind of kept on having that as an option.
Fantastic.
And during the pandemic last year, we filmed a few more showreel scenes because I wanted to update a few things. We bought some more equipment, some more lighting, and I became fascinated by the idea of what we could potentially, the stories we could potentially tell. During my second year at university, we did a 48-hour film festival.
Yeah, the 48-hour film competitions. Whew.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, you know what it.
Yeah,
what
yeah,
they're
yeah,
like.
yeah.
And it was my first time because I wanted just to be an actor, but we were short of one director. I never wanted to direct prior to that. But I really, really liked it. The idea of having a vision for something and then piecing it together piece by piece. So with a couple of other friends, we decided, well, why not set up a production company? Other people are doing it, so we might as well try it.
Why not? Yeah.
And we met with a lovely writer from. It was originally from Sri Lanka, but was in my partner's university, and he writes like there is no tomorrow. And he wrote this as a sort of a scene we wanted to film as a standalone short film. But because we liked the idea so much of it, we then expanded. We're probably going to be expanding it in not necessarily a consecutive sort of. It's not an episodic project, but there are going to be possibly around 24 short films that are going to be the span of one bigger story. And this was
So you're creating an anthology, essentially.
in a way, yes.
Okay.
The majority of them will be acted by me and the other, the scene partner I have in this film. There is a specific reason for that, but that's explored much later on. And it's not only due to the fact that we can't pay other actors currently, but we'll see where that's going to go from now.
Sure. Amazing. How did you get this location? What is the location? Is it a library or what?
Yeah, it's a small sort of library in the Liverpool Medical Institution, I believe, or it was something other. They still use it for lectures, but they were very happy to not rent us one of these rooms because I thought, well, we wanted the chess game to be in a place of knowledge, and having an idea of a university student, which was my scene partner's kind of part, and a slightly older mentor, but having a place of knowledge around, well, one of the oldest games that is basically just based upon strategy and knowledge, we thought it's going to be fitting for the film itself. So that's mainly why we chose it.
I think it's great because if you're doing a one location shoot, having a location that is interesting and it fills the narrative already will save you a lot of money, a lot of time, especially if you're planning on doing multiple of these productions with little or no budget. So really, really well, like first time filmmaking strategy that you had in place. Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. And how many shoot days was this? Was this a one-day shoot?
This was one-day shoot. Yes, we did. I mean, we sort of looked at the idea. You were completely correct. While starting out, we wouldn't be making much money anyway. So we were looking at a way to minimize budget yet maximize, not necessarily flexibility, but maximize what we could do with what little we had. And we obviously there's some other issues to it. I mean, the library is a lovely little place. We did ask whether they have any windows so we could control the light.
Yeah.
They said no windows whatsoever, so we were happy to go in. And technically they were correct. There were no windows, but there was a massive black room, sort of like 4 meters up in the air, that we had no power over. So we tried to block as much as we could. We got a few big pieces of cloth and fabric just to sort of minimize the light, but of course there is quite a bit of spillage around us. Some of my shots have lamps in the background because we wanted to sort of motivate the lighting that was going to come as a backlight, but a lot of these are sort of washed out by the sunlight that was coming through the big glass dome that we have no power of blacking out. But otherwise than that, the location is superb.
Yeah, absolutely. Controlling the light as a cinematographer, a DP, that's like the most important thing in order to get the image as sharp as possible. So going into a place thinking that it's going to be completely concealed, you're just going to put your lights up, to then have to deal with that on the day was probably quite stressful. So well done for overcoming that hurdle. I guess that leads on to then the next question of what else did you have to overcome in order to get this project to what we're seeing now? As the credits roll my side.
this was perfect timing.
Yeah.
No, it was In terms of much else, obviously because the chess game, although you don't see much of it in detail, I did want to. I'm a big fan of making things as real as possible. I designed the ending of the chess game based on an old Russian game of chess. So the whole point, if you were to look at the moves we were making, when she says at the end a mate in one, it is really going to be a mate in one. If I don't win the game in this move, she wins it the next. And I wanted this to be the dynamic as well. Literally up until the end, she could have won or I could have won, and then the final move would. So the one of the big things that we needed to make sure to get right was, where do the lines come with each correct move on the line? Is there a pause? Do I make the move, then say the line? Do I say the line, then make the move? And obviously on the close-ups of the board, a lot of this was done with the steps. I mean, we did have other close-ups that we couldn't use because unfortunately some of the movements didn't match as well as I thought they would. So there is a few other, small bits and bobs. Obviously, the other problem, other than the light and the board, was just the whole production. It was new to us. We were doing something like this for the first time. I'd like to say that ever since then we've kept on improving. We've shot 5 or 6 more since then. We haven't published them any. We're not planning to put all of them through the festival circuit, but we thought that this, because it's our first one, we'll just give it a try. And I'm very, very delighted to find out that people enjoyed it. It means a lot, genuinely. So yeah,
absolutely. And as you grow as filmmakers, it goes back to what we said at the beginning. Attend other filmmakers, see what is happening on the festival circuit, see what projects are being selected. If you resonate with the project immensely, go and speak to the director, producer, because for all they might be happy to come and help on your project as well. Yeah. So that's how you start building as a production company, building your team.
Well, networking sort of group.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Completely.
I guess then my final question is, I kind of missed asking Thomas this, so I will ask him in a moment. But what inspired you to get into this industry, and what is your favorite film?
Favorite film, probably, no doubt, it has to be, for me at least, The Silence of the Lambs.
Amazing choice.
This was a film I watched quite at a young age, which was probably a mistake.
Yeah, did it not scare you?
I thought, I mean, later on, a lot of other people have made this comment so well, but something that I really like in the film was that they took such a long time to build Lecter as this monster. He's such a monster. He's so horrible. And then she goes down this corridor with the worst of criminals, and you have them each getting worse by the cell. And then you reach the final cell, and it's just humble man going hello. And it was such a powerful moment, because they used, when I was young, at least, that was one of the first things that formed up, because you expect this monster, and you see a man, and it kind of resonated with me to be sort of like, okay, so it's an interesting way that they've used various methods, both in filmmaking, in the score, and just the pieces of the puzzle. Because what we see is the final product, obviously, and the pieces of the puzzle are what interest me. I've always liked logical puzzles in games, and filmmaking has turned out to be quite the puzzle.
Yeah. Wow. You need all the pieces for it to work. So yes.
Oh God, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And Thomas, before we end today's session, I didn't get a chance to ask you what your favorite film was, or how you ended up working in this industry.
Oh, my favorite film. I don't prepare this. It's a French film. It's named Le Dîner Con.
Okay.
It's an older film called produced in 1986 in memory.
I don't know it. I need to look it up. Amazing. French films are so good as well, though. They are like groundbreaking most of the time. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that you chose a French film.
Yes, and it's a French comedy, and we have they film in Paris. We have a lot of reference to Paris, and it's a great film.
I do find the French comedy quite dry and quite similar to UK kind of how dry it is. So I think I'll definitely try and check it out at some point. So thank you for the recommendation. And again, thank you everyone for joining us on today's stream. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and congratulations on picking up the Audience Choice Award.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Liftoff Global Network.